Well, good afternoon. Thanks everybody for being here today. Dakotas are just beautiful. And as John said, I do have the Dakotas. I kept them. I love this area. I go hunting up in North Dakota. I'm trying to work out some locations around here, maybe do some hunting also. But Nebraska and Wyoming, I did have those states, the 9 states I used to cover, but I have a counterpart down in Denver. And he said, you know, I can travel there in about an hour or two, Gary, and it takes you all day by flight to get to those areas, so why don't we just do some trading here? So we did, but I still have Alaska, so I'm still traveling clear out to Alaska, and unfortunately I couldn't get Hawaii. I tried Hawaii, they just wouldn't give it to me. And believe it or not, they do have fires in Hawaii too. They have quite a few of them. Well, I've been in the fire service a long time. Right out of high school, I caught the bug, and it wasn't because I was a juvenile fire setter either. It was because it just really interests me. Wildfires, and that's pretty much what we were fighting during that summer's wildfires and how they threaten home. I was 17 years old, went as a junior firefighter. Laws were a lot different back then, and we could go out and fight fire at 17. And as I got a little older, I decided I wanted a full-time career in it, and went from the part-time career into a full-time career. And here, 35 years later, I'm retiring this year as Fire Marshal of the City of Bend. And a lot of people say, well, what drives a passion? How do you change people's behaviors and attitudes about protecting their homes from wildfire? I said, really, you know, it depends on their values. It depends if they want to be a good steward of their property, because really we're only temporary stewards on this earth anyway, right? And so we have to manage it the best way we can while we're here. And I think as long as we have the information, we're not really victims of fire. If we have that information, I really don't feel we're victims. What drove the passion for me was going out on some of these fires where they consumed 18, 19, 20 homes. And these homeowners, we took them out by the bus loads back out into their communities. And what they found was smoking foundations. It looked like a war zone. And those people, as we dropped them off at their addresses, the ones that had smoking foundations, they broke down in tears. They're down on their hands and knees, and we're trying to give them comfort. And then there are the homes right beside them. They thought it was a miracle. Why is my home still standing and my neighbor's home is down to the ground? And they came up to us and hugging us and said, it's such a good job as firefighters. And so it's a lot of mixed emotions, but that's what really drove the passion for me. We have to do more. We have to get this information out to the public and get them to change their behaviors and what they do, because that really wasn't a miracle home. They did things around their home that kept it from burning. They did simple things. It's usually something you can do in a weekend. That's it. And also firefighters, when they're driving down the road, and let's say we have maybe initial attack, any fire department's probably only going to have 4 or 5 units go out on initial attack when the fire first comes in. But yet they have 200, maybe 250 homes to protect. They have to hopscotch around and decide which homes they're going to protect until the other resources start coming in. And that could be hours later. That fire could already be through that neighborhood by the time those other resources arrive from other cities. So they have to pick and choose. It's kind of like a paramedic. When the 2 paramedics go out on an ambulance and there's a bus accident and they have 30 patients inside, those paramedics have to choose right away which ones that they can treat, which ones they can make a difference to, get them to the hospital, and the ones that are so serious, they have to just go right past them. That's called triage. And that's what our firefighters are doing today. We just simply don't have enough resources to protect every home, so they're going to pick and choose which homes that they know that they can save. Where's a safe spot for their firefighters to pull in, park their equipment, deploy their hose lines, in case that fire is so big and it whips right over the top of them, they can go inside that home and shelter in place, wait for that fire to pass through, go back out, put out the hot spots, move on to the next home. And what you do as a homeowner can make a difference, whether or not they're going to stop at your house, number one, and number two, if they do stop at the house, that they can save your home or just do a few things around your home, put out a couple spot fires and move on to your neighbor's home. You can do that in a weekend for the most part, but we're going to show you some things today, and it's an introduction, and that's all I'll say, because we at National Fire Protection Association, which developed the FIREWISE program, we have a lot of different training programs, and we have 2-day training programs for firefighters and professionals. We have a 1-day training program for them. And then we have this introductory for homeowners. And so the homeowners can kind of see what they can do around their home to make a difference. So we live on this planet. Fire's been around for a long time, as we know. And often we say, well, fire's bad fire. Smoky Bear. A lot of people attack Smoky Bear for being bad fire. Well, not necessarily is fire always bad. Fire can be good. And as a part of this planet for thousands, millions of years, long before we came along, and it did some wonderful things. And then when humans got involved about 80 to 100 years ago and started saying, hey, you know, this fire can be bad, we're going to start extinguishing all fires, that's when we started creating a problem for our natural resources, especially when those resources, that was a part of the landscape. Why FireWise exists, and how many have heard of FireWise before? Terrific. FireWise is a program to empower communities and homeowners to do things around their home to make them a little safer during a wildfire event so they don't have to come home to a smoking foundation. Now, a lot of people ask me, so does this eliminate any chance from me having a home burned from wildfire? Absolutely not. We cannot eliminate those chances of your home from being burned to the ground from a wildfire. But what we can do, with your help, we can reduce that risk. We can reduce it. In fact, case studies show from actual fires that burned in California and across the United States that if you look at the FireWise principles and or become a FireWise community and those homes have these FireWise principles, you have a better than 80% chance of surviving a wildfire, and that's without fire department responding. So now if you had a fire department responding, you've got a better chance. And people ask, well, how do I eliminate? I want to make sure my home never burns from wildfire. Well, I can't say that. Now, if you lived in one of these little bunkers that, you know, they put out in the areas that they're waiting for the doomsday bunkers, you know, they're underground, that's a possibility, but still, that bunker has an opening. And anytime you have an opening to a structure where embers can fly in and ignite the interior of the structure, you got an issue. So I couldn't even say that a bunker would be 100% safe because you have an opening. So we have to develop some sort of plan. What a homeowner should know, what type of strategy can we have this summer before wildfire strikes? We need to be part of the solution and not so much part of the problem. I don't think we want government, big brother government, coming in telling us what to do on our property. I think that's why we live out here in these wonderful areas that many of the people in urban areas would love to vacation or love to live themselves and they can't. But it's really important that the homeowner take some responsibility in that. Because as a fire marshal for so many years, I didn't have any authority to go out on personal property and tell them what to do. And you know what? I didn't want to do that because I wouldn't want government coming in on my property to tell me what to do either. So that tells me I have some personal responsibility to do the right thing because what I do on my property can also affect my neighbors. So we have to have some communication between government agencies and also with our neighbors. So some of the fire uses, our Native Americans years ago, they set fires, as we probably all know. And they set fires to allow that fire to burn underneath the trees, take out a lot of the brush, the grass would come back greener. And why? Because we're putting better nutrients back in the ground from that fire. What came in? Animals. They were hunters. Okay? 1910, we had some serious wildfires in the West. And the federal government said, we're going to extinguish all these fires by 10 o'clock the next morning. What happens then? But the fuel started growing back up. We're doing a great job extinguishing the fires. In fact, firefighters do such a great job extinguishing fires that they extinguish 98% of all fires. Out of all of the tens of thousands of fires that happen every year, they extinguish, of these wildfires, 98%. 2% of those fires are getting away. And those are the catastrophic fires that there's not a fire department in the United States can extinguish those fires. It's like the ones burning in Colorado right now, New Mexico. These fires are getting hotter, they're getting bigger, and they're more expensive. We used to have 21 air tankers in the air. This year we're down to 9. We're hoping to get 3 more. That's for the entire United States. So when those things are flying, when they're flying, because a lot of these times the windy conditions are tied to the ground. And the reason they're tied is because they like to fly when the air is blowing, they like to fly. But you know what? It's too hazardous up there, so they put them on the ground. We don't have that protection anyway. But the homes that are surviving, the miracle homes, are the ones where the homeowners took action. So a good fire, it helps maintain healthy habitats, puts those nutrients back into soil, as we know. I noticed that I was here in South Dakota about a month ago, and I saw this patch up on the hill that the fire department personnel was showing me where the fire had burned. Already it had turned green. So it tells me that fire is doing some great things. So it helps clear out some of that dead vegetation on the forest floor also, okay? Because after a winter, you know, when you get your snow, it's going to push it all down. Now last year I understand we didn't have a lot of snow here, so you probably have a lot of dead stuff still standing that's mixed in with the green. A lot of people say, well, how's this fire burn? It looks, you know, the media that come out of these fires, and say, it's green, it shouldn't be burning. Or the person burning in their burning barrel, you know, they didn't take any precautions around their burning barrel, and they said, well, it's green, it's not going to burn. But it's that dead stuff that's mixed in with it, it's going to burn very well. So it clears out a lot of that dead and overgrown vegetation, and that way some of the smaller trees aren't competing with the bigger trees, you know, for the sunlight and the moisture. But this bad fire that we keep talking about, you know, over the last 100 years, it's not really so bad. There's some ways that we can help manage our forests, manage the landscape by introducing fire, and it's a good thing. So we have this thing called the WUI, kind of odd name, acronym for Wildland Urban Interface. And pretty much what I say is the definition is the home in the woods. It's the urban fuel. It's the home that we built, or the structure we built out in a wildland area. We don't really call them forest fires anymore, we call them wildland fires. And you know what? You don't have to be right in the middle of that forest anymore for your home to burn. So many people, even firefighters, and it's hard training all these firefighters, hey, this home, yeah, it's a mile away from that fire front. And they're saying, oh, it's going to be safe. So they pass right on by it and they're following the flames. They want to put out the flames. They want to put the wet stuff on the red stuff. They want to run their lights and sirens, and they're attacking those flames. They're forgetting about the homes behind them. And these ember showers that come off these canopy of these trees, they'll float for over a mile, hot. And it's like snow, and it comes down on top of these homes. Over 50% of the homes that are destroyed in these wildfires are destroyed from these ember attacks. Over 50%. So it's the little thing that's burning these homes. It's not the big flames. So some of the fundamentals. We have dangerous areas. Where do people usually like to build their home? Where they get a view, right? They want to put it up on top of the hill. I was back in the Appalachian Mountains with some firefighters. We were putting on a 2-day class, and they took me up some of the steepest hills I've ever, in a 4-wheel drive, and they said, yep, all these people out of Atlanta, they're coming up here and they're building these homes up here on the very top of these hills. And the switchbacks were so tight, they actually put these big round mirrors on trees so they could see the next car coming up the hill. I said, how do you get your fire apparatus up these roads? And they said, it takes us hours. I said, well, these homes could be gone by then. Yep. That's why the training is so important. So in chimney areas, on slopes, those fires are going to travel 3 times the speed at a minimum, because the flame lengths are longer, because the fuels are closer to the ground, and when that flame length spreads out, it's hitting more fuel easy, where if it's flat, it's straight up and it doesn't communicate as fast. So up on a hill, that fire is going to spread quickly and more intensely. Saddles, again, Some areas and saddles, you'll get some backing fires, but the chimney areas and top of slopes, those are really a place you got to be worried about too. So it's the little things that we got to be worried about. So take note of this. Imagine this is your home. Now, I could have brought in a lot of pictures of a lot of different homes, but when I travel from coast to coast, people say, well, that isn't my home. I have vinyl siding in Florida, and you go out on the West Coast, no one uses vinyl siding. Or I live in a mobile home, or I have a McMansion in California. So if I don't see the type of environment that I'm living in, I kind of tune it out. So that's why we have this type of program with more art, so that people can imagine this is their home out in a forested area. So some of the little things, as I said, we have surface fires that come in from the forest, even if it's not in the canopy of the tree. If you have a wind-driven fire, it's going to move pretty fast through this grass, especially what we have here in Dakotas, all this prairie grass, and it gets pretty tall, and there's a lot of dead stuff in there, and it gets awful dry in August, and that's going to move very, very fast. So we need to be looking at how a surface fire is going to communicate to my home. We also have to look at where the ember showers from these canopies of these trees, when they ignite, you know, where are they throwing these embers and where are they lighting? Because there's a good chance you're not going to be home or want to be home when this fire hits. So we're looking at vents and screens. You think, well, if I got an attic and I got some vents up there, how's an ember going to get in there? Well, we've done a lot of tests, and we're finding that even a 1/4 inch screen on your vent inside your attic, 1/4 inch, and you're thinking these embers, they can be pretty big and they can be pretty small. But with 10 to 20 mile an hour surface winds, which is easy to have, those sparks are blown right through it into your attic. Spaces. A lot of people say, well, I got a terracotta roof, you know, clay roof. Well, we go out and inspect the roof, and they have these, what we call little bird holes, where those things come down on top of their plywood. Great place for embers to go into. And that's where the birds nest. They love putting little nests in there. And that's great kindling for those embers. Wood piles. Where do we put our wood piles? Often we put them right up against the house during the wintertime, so it's a short distance. Also, you got some overhang, keep the snow off. But do we remove those wood piles after the winter? Do we take them away from the home? These flower pots. We were at a home yesterday. It has these little flower pots right against the home. And they did a great job around the home, except for what's collecting in those things, but a lot of pine needles and duff and different things. Great place for these sparks to come down and ignite. And I always say if it's attached to the home, it's part of the home. So we need to talk about some of these strategies, what we can do, and have a plan around our home. We need to think about what are we going to do this weekend in case we have a fire. What can we do before that fire strikes? And that's the time to plan, is before that fire strikes. We need to be thinking about zones. Now, I can't expect you to go out this weekend and do everything. And it may take you 5 years to meet your plan. It may take you 10 years when you think about hardening your home. We'll talk a little bit about that today. But the first area is about 30 feet out. We call that Zone 1. And with all of the science that we have behind this wildfire, we actually had a person by the name of Jack Cohen go out in the Northwest Territories, and he lit forests on fire. And he built little homes, little makeshift homes. He watched those embers come over and tried to, he also measured the convected heat 30 feet out from these trees. And we found that with T111 siding, and even cedar siding, that a tree that is about 30 to 40 feet away, when it's ignited, and it puts out some pretty hot temperatures, maybe about 1,500 degrees in temps, that canopy burns up in about 40 seconds. Now you think, wow, that's a lot of heat, but it only lasts for such a short time. He filmed it, and we saw that siding sometimes would smoke and even ignite, but there wasn't enough heat over that duration of time for the ignition to contain. So what happened is the fire itself extinguished. So we know 30 feet with a tree that's 30 feet out, if that canopy ignites, that you got a very reasonable chance of your home not igniting from that tree canopy. So that's just one of the things we have to be worried about, is the tree canopies. But there's also a lot of ways to keep the fire on the ground and not get up in that canopy. So 30 feet around the home, that's something that I'd like you, put on your FIREWISE glasses, go out around your home and be thinking about, what can I do around my home to keep that ground fire, that surface fire, from reaching my house? What can I do around my home in case those embers come down? What can I do to clean it up so if an ember lands here, it won't spread a fire into the rest of my home? Once you're out 30 feet, maybe the next year you're looking out from 30 feet to 100 feet if you have that much property. You may be in your neighbor's property at that time. And then maybe the year after that, you're going out from 100 feet to 200 feet. And again, if you have that much area. So some of the things you're looking at your chimney, your roof, your siding, your decks. Such as your chimney. Often we already have a spark arrestor on top of our chimney. That keeps the sparks from going out, but also it keeps some sparks from going in. We're looking at our roof. Is it a wood roof? Wood roofs are the most vulnerable part of our homes if it's wood, because it's a fairly flat surface, and when the embers come down, they light on that roof, and the homes burn from the roof down. Time and time again, we go out and do these post-fire investigations, and we find that the home is down to the foundation and all the trees around the home are still green. In fact, all the grass is still green, but the home is gone. That was from an ember attack. It wasn't from a surface fire. So, what's on top of your roof? You also have some gutters. Should be metal gutters. If they're plastic, just make sure they're very clean, because what collects in these gutters but debris? You have leaves, you have pine needles. When those embers come down, they ignite the pine needles, they go up underneath your soffits, into your attic, and again, you're burning from the top down. So that's another area to clean. You might have a skylight up here. Skylights, I suggest that they be of glass, not plastic, because if you have an overhanging tree, it's probably dumping a lot of litter down. That litter is going to ignite, possibly generate enough heat to actually melt that skylight if it's plastic. Then again, it allows an opening for more embers to go inside your home and ignite your home, burn from the inside out. Your siding, the siding's fine. It's better to have maybe a concrete siding or non-combustible siding, but again, wood siding's fine, but we have to look at the fuel around the base of the home. What is up against the home? Because if you have brush right up against the home, or you have brush underneath the deck of your home, or if you have a lot of ornamental shrubbery around your home that's very, very explosive, I won't say explosive meaning explodes, but it burns very readily, it's going to spread that fire to your home. So we're looking at spreading, getting those fuels, we call it fuel, get it away from your home. And then break up the communication. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. Your windows, a lot of people down in southern United States and the eastern United States only have single pane windows. We recommend to go double pane because if a window fails from the heat, it'll break and fall down. That allows more embers and fire and convected heat to go inside your home. Ignite your home then again. So if you have dual pane, the outside will fail, but you still have the inner glass that will hold up. Now, some people say that's too expensive. I don't want to replace my windows. That's fine. Then I would say, well, let's look at an alternative. You have this big shrub out in front of your picture window. Why don't we remove that to remove the fuel source, the heat source, then you can keep your single pane window. It's all about values and options, what you're willing to do. You may not have enough money to take that wood roof off this summer. And you know what? If my kids came to me and they said, Dad, you know, I hear you talk about maybe not taking us to Disneyland this year because you want to change out that wood roof. Believe me, I would lose in that vote. You know, we're going to Disneyland, right? So it may be a few years before I can get that wood roof off, but there's some other things I can do around my house to reduce my risks from wildfire. Decks are another thing. I've seen more homes burn from wooden decks. And the stuff that people put underneath the decks, the bushes are up against the deck. They screen underneath, maybe with some lattice work, but they don't screen it with metal screening. So that's something that we need to look at to keep the embers from going in underneath, or clean out underneath the deck, get all the shrubs and all the brush away from it, all the weeds, maybe put a little gravel in under there so it's totally non-combustible or fire resistive. So we look from the peak to eaves. So when you're looking around your property this weekend, and you say, what can I do? From peak down, you're looking at maybe a screen over your fireplace chimney. You're looking at some skylights, any repairs that might need to your roof itself, so these embers can't get underneath the shingles. Composition roofing is good, metal's good, clay is good. There's a lot of other types of materials, Class A roofing, that is fine, but wood roofing is a loser, and that's what burns most of these homes down. Cleaning out the litter from the gutters. Then we look from the gutter down the wall. You can see here they have some ornamental bushes around the home. You know, again, if you don't want to remove it, it's all about reducing your risk. I prefer that you have 18 inches to 36 inches of either bare dirt or gravel or pea gravel, something like that around your entire home. And then you start with your maybe bark chips or some of your fire resistive plants. You can go to your fire department or your extension service and they'll talk about fire resistive plants that grows in this area. You can go to firewise.org. Right here, you can get all this information for free, any videotape you want, any brochure that we have out here and more from the firewise.org website. And they usually get it to you in less than 2 weeks. Even the shipping is free. You won't find another free program like this out there. So windows, that's another area as we discussed. Decks, can they be wood? Sure they can. But again, we're looking at breaking up that communication from the fuels to your deck. Your fences, if they're attached to the home, that's part of the home. So if you have a wood fence that goes out into the brush and that brush catches fire, it's going to move that fire to your fence. Your fence is like a wick from the forest right into your home, okay? So I'm not saying to remove your entire wooden fence. I'm talking about breaking up the communication of that wood. Maybe you might say, okay, I have a wooden gate there now in between my house and the rest of the fence. I'll replace that with a metal gate. That way if that fence is burning, it stops right there. I might put in some pumice block and break up that communication so the fire doesn't move from the ground into your home. We talked about the double pane windows, some of the ornamental plants and shrubs around the home. Then again, fire resistive is the best type, but try to get them out. If they're going to be in the 30-foot area, space them out and clean out from underneath them. I don't know if you've looked at your shrubs, but if you go out there after the winter and the wind's been blowing, when I look at mine, I pull up those branches and it's all dead debris from the last year under there. I find gum wrappers and cigar wrappers and everything that blew from the neighbor's yard, that's where it collected, right? So it's time to prune that stuff up, clean it out. Bark chips, again, bark chips, they don't put a lot of flame length out, but you know, that smoldering fire from those embers just love bark chips and pine needles. And they use, when we're back in the Appalachians, they don't use bark chips, they use what they call pine mulch or pine straw. And here we went to these homes and they had 4 inches of pine needles stacked around their home. And that's what they use for landscaping. And I said, well, that's terrible. But then again, I think what we use out here, we're using a lot of bark chips, you know. It's readily available. What I suggest, you either keep it very wet or you move it out that 18 inches to 3 feet away from the home, okay, so it doesn't spread to your home. So we went through a lot of that. We got to remember that if it's attached to the home, it's part of the home, but we're only looking at the 30 feet around the home. This is an area that a lot of fires, I've been on a fire when it was a 1/4 acre fire, took out 2 homes completely We had one person trapped inside, went underneath the deck like this, started 8 other homes on fire from ember shower. So when we got there, a 5-minute response on a paved road with fire hydrants and everything, we had 2 homes fully involved, and we had 8 other homes burning from the top down from these embers. So again, even with the quickest response from a fire department, you could have chaos and a lot of destruction. So we need to screen that with some good metal screening and clean out underneath the deck and keep it clean. A lot of this is just maintenance. It's just maintenance. So we want to manage that vegetation from the 30 feet out to 100 feet. Again, you can have trees. We're not looking for a moonscape here. We're looking at pruning up the lower hanging limbs up 6 to 10 feet. Okay, we call those ladder fuels, because if we have a surface fire, those limbs are going to catch fire, and they're going to move that fire into the canopy of the tree. And once that canopy of that tree is burning, it's burning hot, and it's throwing out embers. And when it's throwing out embers, it's going to land on your home. A lot of people say, well, I have this tree I planted, or my grandfather planted, it's right up against the house. You're saying I got to cut that? No, I'm not saying you have to cut that. I'm saying prune up the lower hanging limbs. If you want to reduce your risk even more, you can remove it. If you want to keep it, I'm okay with that. I really am. It's about reducing risk, because you can't eliminate all the risk. It's about cleaning the gutters. It's about pruning the limbs. It's about breaking up the communication of ground fuels. Get that lumber, those lumber piles and your wood piles away from the home. I still have people say, no, I'm leaving that wood pile right up against the home. And I tell you, when firefighters move through, and I've been one of them, you know, that guy that stacks 5 cords of wood up against the home, how long did it take him to chop that and put it up there? Quite a while. Can you imagine 2 to 3 firefighters, while other homes are burning, we're chucking this wood away from the home, while other homes are being destroyed by wildfire. So they may just drive right past it because they say, you know, there's fire in that wood pile right now, we don't have time. They're going to drive right past. Another thing you can do with wood piles, if you have to keep them up against the home, tarp them. Get a nice canvas tarp it so those embers won't get inside those wood piles. Propane tanks, there's a lot of codes out there that tell you can have the smaller propane tanks up against the home. That's fine. Just keep it clean around it. Keep the brush, keep the grass and everything. You know, if it's green grass, it's fine. If it's mowed, keep the dead grass, anything will burn out 10 feet from those propane tanks. Otherwise, keep them outside the 30-foot zone, especially the larger tanks. There you can see they have some pumice block there to keep the communication of fire away from their home. They've got their wood piles and gasoline tanks away. Now, if you live in a subdivision, that's another concern, because now your 30 feet may go over to the neighbor's house. Well, you say, well, I can't go over my neighbor's property and take care of it. So that's where FIREWISE communities really come into play. It's about neighbors talking with neighbors, saying, you know, we're having this community meeting, and we're trying to start this FIREWISE program in our community, because the fire department's been out here and they told us. They said, you know, I can do whatever I can on my property, but whatever I do on my property will affect your property, and whatever you do is going to affect mine. And they said, well, I'll be home in case there's a wildfire, and I'll be out there with the hose, and I'll make sure I put all the fires out. Well, I guarantee you that isn't always going to happen, because we all take vacations, and we all take vacations, seems like when there's wildfire season during the summer. So not all the time the neighbor's going to be home, and if they got wood piles that could communicate enough radiant heat or convected heat over to your home, what they do on their property is going to affect you. So FIREWISE communities gets everybody talking. Maybe about a neighborhood watch program, or it might be about an elderly person that has, you know, all their family's gone and there's an evacuation. Who's taking care of them? So it gets everybody a talking, and that's something we've probably lost in a lot of our communities today, that people are talking to their neighbors. And that's something I've really found in FIREWISE communities. People are getting to know each other, they're having some barbecues, and they're talking to their neighbors. So they have a plan in their community. How are they going to make their community a natural fire break? Addressing is also important. Doesn't matter if it's fire, it might be a medical emergency, it might be the UPS driver or FedEx. They need to find you. If they can't find you, they can't help you, they can't deliver the packages. So have a good address sign. Have good access to your home. If you have too steep access, or like the place I told you over there in the Appalachian Mountains, they're not going to be very fast getting there. Fire doubles in size every 30 seconds inside a home. So if you have a room and contents fire, 30 seconds later, it could be in the next room, into the living room, and your home's gone in 10 minutes. Pretty important to have good access and water supply if it's available. Have that community plan, be a FIREWISE community, be part of the solution. It's your responsibility, and it's our responsibility. It's the firefighters' responsibility. It's the insurance company's responsibility. It's the federal government's responsibility. It's everybody's responsibility to take part in this. We all can't say it's the other person's fault. Someone has to take action and say, you know what, I'm going to lead this cause. I'm going to become a FIREWISE community, and I'm going to work with my partners. There's other things you can do. If you're burning on your property, make sure you're working with your local fire department, make sure it's safe. Okay? Burn barrels, they can be disastrous. We've had some big fires start from burn barrels. Fireworks on the property, barbecues. All these different things have caused some very serious fires where civilians have died from wildfire. We have a lot of inversions in this area. Think about the air quality also. The weather conditions. If we're at days like today and it gets above 80, 90 degrees, it might be time to burn in the morning when temperatures are cooler, more humidity. The fuels have a lot more moisture in them at that time. Think about your internal combustions out there on hot days. If you're cutting, if you're chipping, using your lawnmower, they all cause sparks. That's all it takes is a spark on a hot day, the right fuels. Be prepared. There's actually been families where their children have been lost in fires because the family didn't have a plan. And when law enforcement knocked on the door and said, there's a fire moving into this area, you guys need to leave, what do they think? Oh, I need my medications, I need, oh, where's my car keys? Let's see, what else? I need our pictures. We need to open up the safe and get some things out of there, honey. And by the time they opened up their front door, they had fire sweeping inside their house. Fire moves very quickly, and if it's time to leave, it's time to leave, so you have to be prepared. Have to be prepared. Some of the things also before leaving the home and when you're asked to be evacuated, know which valuables you're taking. Close your garage door. So many people, when they leave the garage door open. That's a penetration. It's going to allow that fire to come inside the home. Okay? Make sure all the windows are shut. Okay? Have a ladder out maybe for a firefighter. You can use that ladder quickly. A lot of these wildland agencies don't carry ladders. The structural fire departments do, but the wildland agencies don't. So if the wildland agencies come through and they want to put a little water on your roof, that ladder really helps out. Have the hose out, hooked to a spigot, ready to go. Tell the rest of your family, your loved ones, where you're going to be going. Hey, you know, you might be contacting your kids, might be parents, cousins, or whatever. Yeah, we have this serious wildfire. They're talking about evacuating us tomorrow. Start calling some people. Tell them where you're going to be, because they're going to be calling 911 saying, hey, my friends have just been evacuated. I don't know where they're at. I'm very worried. So help them by letting them know where you're going to be. Close the windows, as I said. Think about some of those combustibles out on your deck. You know, there's even a cushion or a broom up against your home. We've seen this in fires, where the broom, just the broom, is igniting from embers and spreading that fire to your home. These cushions on your deck furniture, they just love embers. So take them and throw them out in that 30-foot zone. Get them away from the house, or move them into the garage before you leave. Gasoline cans, propane tanks, these ones for your barbecue, get them away from your house. It's always best to have a plan in place, what you're going to do. Usually you got some time before you evacuate, sometimes you don't. And lastly, be thinking about a FIREWISE community. It's 5 simple steps. I'm running out of time, but I have a lot of information over here that I ask you to take with you. There's even a brand new calendar for 2013. There's a pin over there. There's my cards if you have any questions. We have our FIREWISE liaison for the state of South Dakota here with us, or with us today, Andy, and Andy's going to talk to you a little bit here in a couple minutes, and he can definitely help you out. Are there any questions for me? After Andy's finished, I'll be setting up this very short video, and it was done here in the Rapid City area, and it's a very good video that, you know, shows what a community can do to become FireWise. So Andy, you ready to go? Thank you.
As Gary introduced earlier, my name is Andy Tate. I work for South Dakota Division of Wildland Fire Suppression. I'm also the State FireWise Liaison. So if you have a question about FireWise or you want to become a FireWise community, you can go through me. And if I don't have the appropriate answer, I'll go through Gary. If he doesn't have it, he'll go to NFPA, the official FireWise people up there, and see if we can come up with something. Within the Black Hills, we have a few different programs. I've got our thinning programs available with the landowner's sheet over on the table here, and encourage you all to pick one up. It's got, well, I think it has 7 different programs on it actually, and the top 2 are the ones that fall under the Division of Wildland Fire Suppression. We've got the Fire Hazard and Fuels Reduction Program, and what that is, that's our standard 50% cost share program. That's for everything that's outside of one of our targeted hazard reduction areas. And the way that works is you apply to the program. I'll come out and inspect the property to make sure you qualify to do, because everything is in fairly bad shape. Really the only thing that doesn't qualify, select tree removal. We don't allow removal of bug trees underneath that program. We generally don't clean up slash after a contractor. There's kind of things like that that really don't promote the objectives of the program. The other one we have is our non-adjacent fuels program, where we pay 100% of the cost, and that's in very select areas. We've got probably 6 areas throughout the hills right now, and the way those work is we target an area based on a federally designated community at risk. We apply for a grant. It's a competitive grant process, so there's no guarantee we'll have the money, but if it is awarded, we get hand crews in to do the work at no charge to the landowner. And really the only way to find out if you're in one of those areas, you receive a letter in the mail from us if we choose your area. It's kind of based on fire departments. We work closely with the VFDs to prioritize the areas. They are tied to the communities at risk, but that's not the only requirement. We do base it on, I don't want to say values at risk, but greatest impact. If we've got 3 or 4 homes we can protect versus 100, we're going to target the 100 homes so we can get the most good through the program. Meade and Lawrence County have programs as well. Resource Conservation and Forestry has other programs for different forest management aspects as well. The project we're going to go out and look at today is up behind the 1880 train. If you've driven through the city of Hill City before, you've probably seen it if you've looked up the hillside. It's kind of hard to see from this side. It looks a little thicker than it probably, I guess, what we'd consider typical fire break would be, but that's because it's around homes. It does still meet our requirements, and then on the back side of that we thinned it really aggressively, and that's the one we'll go up and take a look at, and that really meets the requirements of our program. Generally what we like to see for the fire side of things, I'm heavily pushing the 30-foot crown spacing, so between the needles on one tree, the needles on another tree, we'd like to have 30 feet of open space. Now a lot of people say, hold on, that's way too thin. I don't want to take all my trees out. And it's an average spacing. Some areas will be 10 to 15, others will be a little higher. It fits within the FireWise principles as well. We work within the zones. Around the home we like to have it a little thinner, and then it can get a little thicker as it moves out from there. And as Gary said, it's not the government coming in telling you you have to do this. We work with you very closely to work within what requirements you have. If you need privacy from your neighbors, you got shade trees. If you've got trees that have sentimental value, we'll work with you to protect those as well. The best way, if you're interested in any of these programs, I'll put a stack of cards out there. The thinning program available to private landowners also has my contact information. Give me a call or send me an email. We'll work with you on a case-by-case basis. And please don't keep this information to yourself. Spread it around. Tell your neighbors. If you know somebody that has a need for it, tell them as well.
You work just with Pennington County or Cook County?
I want to say we're limited to the Black Hills, but we're a statewide organization, so we've worked with people. Yes. Yes. Yep. So we go wherever. It's not. Tim's really the one with the restrictions. He's employed by the Rapid City Fire Department, so he has to stay within the city. Yep. Yes.
Is there a minimum acreage?
That's a really good question. We don't have a minimum acreage for our project. We don't really have a maximum either. It's kind of based on the dollar amount. Obviously, if you've got 30 or 40 acres, we can't treat that with a 50% cost share. You probably don't want to as well. It's a significant expense. The problem we run into there is it ties up all of our funds in one property. And what we'd like to do is create survivable space around the structure. So in a case where somebody has 10 acres or more, we'll draw a 3 to 5 acre ring around the house and treat that area. And that really meets the requirements that we're looking for. And then in the future, you work out from there, kind of at your own pace, and thin it out. Yes, Greg?
There are other programs that can help you out if you
Yes.
have larger acreages. I think FireWise really focuses right around the
Yes.
home, but if you have 30, 40 acres, something like that, there are some other programs available.
And this sheet has those programs on there. It's the Environmental Quality Incentive Program and the Black Hills Forest Health and Restoration Program, correct? And they're more the forest management. You got, what is it, the tree farm program and things like that.
The Environmental Quality Incentive Program,
Yep.
which is run through the Natural Resources Conservation Service. They provide cost share for doing thinning on private lands. We work real closely with them. We actually administer the forestry aspects of that program through the Department of Agriculture, the State Department of Ag, but you can talk with us or talk with USDA, Natural Resources Conservation Service about that program.
Are there any more questions about the programs that I offer? I'll turn it over to Tim now and let him talk just a little bit about what he's doing inside the city and the Fire Safe Council as well. Oh, way to go, Tim.
Are we on? Okay. As I said, my name is Tim Weaver. I'm with the Rapid City Fire Department, and we do the same program that Andy does outside the city. I handle everything inside the city. Rapid City has a very significant wildland-urban interface problem, simply because we have so much of it. There's a lot of population there, and a large part of the city is in that particular environment. So one of the ways that we always try and find ways to help deal with that issue, and these programs are all part of that too. And the video you're about to see was produced in conjunction with the state and the city and the Fire Safe Council. And that video, it's about 6 minutes long. It's got a lot of good information in it, and it's really a good tool to use to introduce people to this process and the concept of fire-resistant landscape or fire-adapted communities. And you may receive that video sometime in the future in the mail or at another program. This council is going to distribute those videos at various programs throughout the year. Might be at the home show, it might be at different programs you might see throughout your communities. And we sometimes use those for mass mailings as well. So if you do see it, latch onto it. And if you have a friend of yours that hasn't seen it yet, maybe let them see that. It's also available on YouTube. If you search Black Hills Firewise, you'll find that too. And I just want to say that, you know, the Great Plains Fire Council does exist. Andy's part of that, so is the city, so are many people. And that Fire Safe Council isn't really primarily made up of just firefighters and people in emergency service. Citizens can also be part of that Fire Safe Council, and you'll have a voice in this issue in the Black Hills region. The whole Black Hills region obviously is at, you know, real threat from wildfire, and there's a lot of urban interface in this area, not just Rapid City or Hill City. So with that, I'll let you watch this and look for it in the near future. receive this video, then you live in a wildland urban fire environment. And chances are your home and your property are at risk of being destroyed by wildfire. Wildlands and wildfire go hand in hand, and fire is part of your existence if you're a resident here. Wildland fire is inevitable, but you as a property owner have a choice on how devastating that fire can be and whether or not your home will survive. Up next, we'll hear from some homeowners who realized the danger they were in and the steps they took to protect their homes. And we'll also hear from one who was impacted by fire and how his life and his property has changed since that fire has passed. We'll also take a look at a few things that you can do and help you get started on creating a survivable space of your own.
It's absolutely essential for neighbors to band together. We realize fully that it's really a life-threatening neighborhood to be in an area where the trees are so prolific. After we thinned the trees, and we did it very responsibly thanks to the Fire Department Prevention Bureau, as well as Tim giving us direction in how to have them thinned properly. It's a bit shocking because they are thinner, and yet we are feeling much safer. When we see lightning storms coming our way, we live on the top of a hill with a view that's unobstructed. It's very frightening because knowing that lightning can very well strike the prairie grass that a lot of people have waist high, life-threatening situation for all of us. So I know fully well that it's important that we have thinned our trees.
Homeowners are the key. They're the answer. There is no government agency, there is no fire department that has the authority to do what needs to be done on the homeowner's property other than the resident. That's why the resident needs to take action to do what needs to be done to protect their home, and then band together with their neighbors and other residents to create a fire-adapted community.
The most beneficial part of the FIREWISE process for me was it made my home safer and enabled me to be more comfortable in sleeping at night. We are thinning fuels, reducing the fuel load around the house, and at the same time, I think my trees got a better chance with respect to the pine beetle attacking us, and I think the health of individual trees is going to be better because they're not fighting each other for nutrients and water. In any forest fire, there's going to be an extensive area involved, and you have to be able to survive on your own, or at least buy some time before some limited assets could come and help you.
I had a lot of fire prevention material that we had gathered up when we were considering building the house. But if we would have thinned a little bit more on the back and taken the trees down maybe 50 feet, that would have probably been a lot easier on the fire guys when they were here trying to save the house. So it's I think the material in the literature is very good. The attitude of, you know, it's not going to happen to me is the wrong one. When you live in the forest, you're probably going to have a fire, and so it's probably best to be proactive. But it's in the long run, it's probably the best thing to do.
The primary goal is to make your home and property survivable in a wildfire. That means the home is fire resistant and can withstand the effects of the fire without intervention of the fire department. The reality is that there aren't enough resources available to protect every home, and the odds of a fire engine sitting next to your home during a wildfire are slim. It isn't fate and it isn't luck why some homes burn and some homes survive. The number one thing is to ensure you have a non-combustible roof on your home. The majority of homes destroyed during a wildfire burn because their roof is ignited by firebrands. Firebrands are the leading cause of wildland urban disasters, and your roof is your home's top target. Keep leaf litter and pine needles clear from your roof and gutters, as this material is easily ignited by firebrands. The space under decks should be cleared of storage. Wood piles should be located away from the home, and decks close to the ground should be screened to keep flying embers out. Other things like non-combustible siding, aluminum soffit and fascia, dual pane windows, and ignition-resistant decking materials all contribute to making your home resistant during a fire. Choose low-growing, well-watered plants around your home, and give your home the separation distance it needs from the surrounding forest. Keep vegetation to a minimum in the first 50 feet from the home, and open the canopy on your property to keep the fire on the ground. Remember, when smoke is on the horizon, it's too late. You need to act now and prepare well in advance of the fire. Fire will be part of your personal landscape again in the future, so gaining the knowledge you need to help create a survivable space will help you live in a fire-adapted community. So visit the Great Plains Fire Safe Council website. There you'll find contact information for your local fire official and links to resources that will help you create a survivable space of your own.